breaking down the walls. We're breaking free. Yeah, we're breaking free. No more oppression. It's out for liberty. Breaking free. Yeah, we're taking a stand. Freedom's in our hearts. We're reclaiming our land. They try to silence us, but we won't be tamed. Voices getting loud, can't keep us in chains. We got the power, we got the might. Together we can shine, together we can fight. Feel the rhythm in your feet, it's time to stand tall. Raise your voice and shout, we're breaking down the walls. We're breaking free, yeah, we're breaking free. No more oppression, it's out for liberty. Breaking free, yeah, we're taking a stand. Freedom's in our hearts, we're reclaiming our land. They try to silence us, but we won't be tamed. Voices getting louder, can't keep us in chains. We got the power, we got the might. Together we can shine, together we can fight. Feel the rhythm in your feet, it's time to stand tall. Raise your voice and shout, we're breaking down the walls. We're breaking free, yeah, we're breaking free. No more oppression, it's out for liberty. Breaking free, yeah, we're taking a stand. Freedom's in our hearts, we're reclaiming our land. Reclaiming our land.
I hate this show. Oh my goodness. Welcome to Are You Smarter Than a Politician? This is the Tuesday night edition of the political game show where bold solutions win and bad ideas get wrecked. Tonight on Are You Smarter Than a Politician, we take on the hidden costs of revenue first politics. Washington brags about tariffs and taxes, but they never cut spending, they never fix broken departments, and they never admit who really pays the bills. Tonight's contestants face off on government waste, budgets, congressional tricks, and state versus federal power. And we'll also ask, can the middle class survive this system? So get ready, because tonight you decide who is smarter than a politician. Rejoining us is Brian Eskow. He is the host of the Brian Eskow Show. You can follow him on X at Brian Eskow. How are you tonight, Brian?
I'm good. If I hear my name one more time, I'm going to throw up.
I felt like I did that a bunch of times. So yeah, welcome back to the show. How are you?
I'm doing great. Honored to be here. Thank you so much.
Go ahead and plug the show.
Oh, no, screw that. How are you?
I'm good, man. Dude, this is great. I have great guests. I mean, this is awesome.
Yep. Thanks, man, for the opportunity. Yeah, I host a podcast. Thank you very much.
And you got engaged since the last time we saw you. So congratulations on that.
Thank you so much. Yeah, very close to the wedding. Super excited.
Man, down to the grind, man. I remember those days. So congrats, man. Thanks for joining us. All right. So also joining us is the 2024 Libertarian vice presidential candidate. He's also the host of Liberty Lens on Thursday nights with our buddy Big John. He's a member of the Republican Liberty Caucus, and you can find him at MikeTerMaat.com. Mike ter Maat, how are you tonight, Mike?
I'm doing good. I agree with Brian. We used his name far too many times.
I didn't name his show, so I'm not technically to blame for that. So,
Well, the name of his show might be a little bit redundant. It's great to be with you.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. What would you like to plug as we get started here?
I would like to plug the Republican Liberty Caucus. Everyone should be a member.
All right. Well said, short and sweet. And also rejoining us again for another appearance, Sean Shepard. He's a former congressional candidate. You can find him at Sean Shepard 1 on X and just search his name on Facebook. I'm sure there's only one Sean Shepard, so that should be probably pretty easy for you. So welcome back, Sean. How are you, buddy?
I am doing fantastic. Glad to be back, and should be a lot of fun. Nice to have Mike joining us as well, and I think I'll join him in plugging the Republican Liberty Caucus. He's doing some really great work trying to reinvigorate that organization and bring some attention to it. And that's hope looking for some good things to come out of that.
We just
Yeah, I
need
heard you got some
Brian
good
showing up now.
Well, I think we can have a really interesting talk about that. I'm really interested in that. I think it was a great move, Mike, on your part. Yeah, I don't know much about it, but just conceptually, I like it. And I like how, Sean, you have a 1 at the end of your Twitter handle. You mixed it up there. That's what I should do.
That just means I was late to the game by 1. So.
Maybe put that in your show title, Brian. Maybe that would mix
Brian
that up a little
Eskow,
bit.
version 1.
Version 1. Brian, how many Brian Eskows are there in the United States? Do you have any idea?
I don't know if there's another Brian. There's a couple Eskows.
Yeah.
I try my best not to get to know him too well.
That's probably a good strategy. There are 2 other Mike ter Maats in the Marriott Rewards program alone. I was the 3rd Mike ter Maat in the Marriott Rewards program.
Do you have the hardest last name to type in presidential campaign history? Because every time I type your name, it auto corrects it to something totally different.
Martin Van Buren had it hard because he didn't even have electricity.
That's true. That's true. Probably the autocorrect back then was laborious. And
there are more people out there that you share names with than you think. I saw a story the other day of a girl who released a balloon and then it traveled 2 states and it landed in the lap of a girl with the same exact name, and it was a weird name. So something spooky going on.
So many, many years ago, I used to get phone calls for someone with my last name, and they always said, well, we're looking for the painter. And I'm like, I don't do that. I don't know what you're talking. I assume they were talking about someone that like painted houses or something like that. About a decade ago, I'm at a fundraiser in my city, and the guest there working on a piece of artwork is the guy with my name. So we finally got to meet, and that was kind of fun. I was like, dude, I used to get phone calls for you all the time. So.
Have you sent him a balloon?
I did not.
you should have offered to sell people paintings. That would have been a nice surprise for them.
Boy, it'd be disappointing when they showed up.
Yeah, just like a stick figure.
Although that one there's mine. So.
So you can paint. All right, that's cool. Yeah. All right, and joining us as always, our producer Terry Batts. How are you tonight, Terry?
I'm good. I'm ready to go. These guys are already kind of wound up, and so is the chat. So good luck, you guys. Go get them.
Awesome. And let's jump in the chat and say hi real quick. Oh, wow. The chat is already going crazy. Amity's here. Welcome, Amity. Another RLC member. Hodie's here. What's up, Hodie? Another member of the Grumblings Network with Mike ter Maat and Big John. Great show he's got.
All I see in the chat is Sean saying, I can't hear free. Fixed it. So we have a lame chat.
You need to switch over to the other chat.
I think you're in the private chat. So
Yeah.
But hopefully people can hear me.
Oh, wow,
that's what they come for, really.
Life
Chris
was
is here.
much
Welcome, Chris. Shirley joining us from across the pond in the early morning hours. Appreciate you, Shirley. Scientific says, I took my Tylenol autism strength for this one. Libertarians cause autism.
It also
Bees
makes
here.
pregnant.
Welcome. Thanks for the repost. Hey, Free and Terry, first 100 points goes to my RLCA cohort, Mike ter Maat. Okay, so points on the board already. Sarah's here. Welcome. Minus 100 to Brian for not muting during the intro. Was that Brian? I don't know.
I'm reading. I'm catching up now. I've lost a lot of points already.
You're in the hole already?
Oh, yeah.
100 to Brian for being on his phone during the intro and for the double mic. I thought it muted everybody automatically during the intro. I didn't know that. Hey, Dan, welcome. Mike reposted. Thanks, Mike. Minus 100 Brian. It's your branding, man. Minus 100 Brian for texting during the open.
Whoa.
I didn't hear any of this. How did I miss this all? So yeah, Brian Eskow. So Free has to say it again. Yeah. At least you didn't lose points from having to say it again. 100 to Mike for letting me jab him for joining the GOP. 100 to Sean for plugging the RLC. 100 to Sean for having my hairline. Thanks for repping. Hodie had a huge win, and my theory is that he shaved all of his body hair for it and was aerodynamic. So until I'm proven differently, that's a good theory.
It's merely a theory. Do you have evidence, or is this like Tylenol?
He won. Oh, I just need Health and Human Services evidence. I got plenty of that. You know?
Well, you need evidence that he shaved his whole body, I think.
Oh yeah, no evidence of that. Not that kind of show. We got that one. 100 to Brian for the kudos on the RLC. 100 to Mike for reinventing the Tea Party. My daughter loves those.
Nice. 45 bucks, you can be a member.
Martha's here. Brian's a great follow on X, smart and authentic. 100% Martha. 100 to everybody without a space in their last name.
Oh,
100 to everyone doing this in front of a bookshelf. Very original for a podcast. Minus 100 to everyone for derailing free show with stories. Casey's here. What's up, Casey? He's got a show tomorrow night at 8 p.m. They both suck. That has nothing to do with the RLC. The other side sucks too, I promise. All right. So, and then let me real quick say you can follow me and Terry on X, Freedom for Us for All, and Terry is Bats T76, Bats T76. And if you want cool swag like the shirt I'm wearing my MAGA shirt for these guys, Make Anarchy Great Again. And there's other shirts and mugs available as well. So you can get those there. And so let's jump into it. Let me just get people in the order I've got them in. There we go. And all right. So please share this out. Bust the algorithm. X causes us problems. The winner tonight would get the virtual Ron Paul holding the Ron Paul trophy, Mike Johnson's signature cologne, Swamp Ass, as well as the Ayn Rand Fountainhead teddy bear. We also have the home edition of Are You Smarter Than a Politician if you want to bore your friends and neighbors. And we also have the Ron Paul and Murray Rothbard bobbleheads. And of course, we have the Lego Killdozer because nobody talks about the Killdozer more than me and Casey. The rules are, I am the government. Whatever I say goes. Scoring errors count. Life isn't fair. Suck it up, Buttercup. Nobody cares. Rules are
new election.
New election?
Yeah, we need to subject the government to an election.
No, you're stuck with the government. You know, no, I forget who said it, but no matter who you vote for, you get John McCain. So this is what you get.
He sounds like an insurrectionist, man.
Dave Smith said that. To his credit, Dave Smith said that.
Was it Dave Smith? Okay.
Dave Smith is the one who said you get John McCain.
All right. So rules are you can debate each other. You can veto an answer. You can tariff an answer. And in the bipartisan style, you can reach across the aisle and redistribute an answer. And everyone starts off with negative 500 points because, as you know, the government gets paid first. This is how scoring works. The chat controls the score. You've seen it a little bit so far. You can give or take up to 100 points away from contestants. You can give us a reason. You can not give us a reason. If you want it to be on the screen, give us a good reason. Terry asked me to say that because people were complaining last time. I don't know who that was, but please give us a reason to make it funny.
Are we allowed to give and take points to the people in the chat?
Absolutely. You can do whatever you want. The rules are so loose in this. It's so unrealistic with me being the government. And if you want to nuke a score, former contestants can nuke a score, taking it all the way back down to 0. They only get one chance to do it. And you can only, a contestant can only get nuked one time. So use it strategically. All right. Lightning round. You gentlemen ready to get started here?
You start with the lightning round. That's counterintuitive.
All right,
Brian.
Brian.
Thunder always comes later.
Brian, the first question is to you. Federal spending. Do politicians spend primarily to get reelected?
So your question is, do we have the spending patterns we have as a result of corruption? That's essentially the question, I guess, right? Backdoor deals and that kind of thing, PACs. I suppose. I don't really know. I'm a late bloomer to the issues that matter. I've kind of globbed onto the cultural issues as I've started to awaken politically a bit. And I think there's probably a good argument to be made that what we have in Washington is not a result of free market interactions, but something else. And I think it's probably fair to say that at this point, we have an entrenched system that is incentivized poorly. So I would say that is probably the case.
All right. Mike, to you. Is the
I don't
US
get to
nas-
answer the first one.
Nope.
Wow.
Everybody gets a different one.
I'd love to
Is
hear Mike. I'll call
that
you later
okay?
if I want your
Is that
feedback
okay?
on that.
No, that was a
Mike.
pretty good answer, but it's a trick question. Politicians do it so people like them, but the only real effect is that they get reelected and people still don't like them.
That's true.
Hmm.
I explained the rules like literally like 30 seconds ago, but you complained during that, and now here we are. But no, I'm kidding.
And here we are.
Yeah, here we are. All right, Mike, would you like your own question, Mike?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Is the U.S. national debt already unpayable?
Yes, but this is also a trick question in the sense that it's not unpayable arithmetically. You know, you could raise enough taxes, you could expand the economy, you could do the things that would be required to pay down the debt, but we're not going to because we don't have a system that'll allow it. And so in that sense, it is unpayable and has been for a decade.
All right. Sean, to you. Should debt be capped per citizen?
Yes, at 0.
Damn, that's a good answer.
Can I take the under? No, that's a great answer. All right. Back to you, Brian. New category, continuing resolutions, CRs. Are continuing resolutions proof Congress can't budget responsibly?
I don't know. Again, I would say, probably, obviously, yes. But is it a result of them being unable to do it, or is it a result of that system just being in control rather than any member or coalition? So I don't know. You guys will have to tell me. Can I defer to Mike for every economic question?
No, Brian's got it right twice. He was right twice. Both of his guesses are spot on. If you can't get your homework in on time, that's on you.
Yeah, you can just guess too, or give your opinion. That's fine as well. All right, Mike, to you. Do CRs lock in bloated spending?
Yes, but only in the sense that they lock in spending up until now. They actually don't keep you from spending even more in the future. It's a ratchet, not something that holds it. It holds it up at a certain level, and then it's just a delay in increasing the spending.
Absolutely. All right, Sean, to you. Do CRs protect special
Do
interests?
CRs
by
protect
default?
special interests by default? Yeah.
Did
Yes,
I mind
but-
Chinese or something?
Sorry. I haven't the audio cut out for a second. Yes, but similar to Mike's answer, only up to a point. And like they're talking about doing another CR now, or they passed one, and it's like, what the hell they've been doing for the last few months since they did the last one? I don't understand this at all. So,
All right. I'm glad we got that across. All right, Brian, back to you. Omnibus bills. Are omnibus bills an abuse of legislative power?
I don't know. I see the messaging from the libertarian side of the Republican Party, from libertarians, about how single issue bills are most appropriate. And I always find myself, or at least this last time that I heard the argument and really paid attention to it for the first time, found myself sympathetic to that. And in the moment I said, oh, that makes a lot of sense. But also on the other side of the equation, maybe it makes sense to do things in one big, beautiful bill. So ultimately, if your highest concern is efficiency and, the libertarian perspective, I guess you can't support omnibus bills. Whether I'm there at this point, not clear, but I understand. I think the message coming from the L's.
Okay.
I thought that was an excellent answer. Omnibus bills are really an abuse of power if you believe in the 60-vote supermajority being a good idea in the Senate to invoke cloture. If you don't believe in that, all bets are off. But it's really an abuse because it's an excuse to get around that 60-vote supermajority requirement by claiming, in an omnibus budget bill, by claiming everything is somehow related to the budget. So they pile all kinds of crap in there that, at least rhymes with budget. and claiming, therefore, we don't need 60 votes. We only need 50.
Well, and they don't even differentiate the spending on it. They just say, we'll just give $1 billion here and 10 billion there, and we'll figure out
Right.
where it's going later.
Right. It's not a black box. It's gray.
Yeah. All right. To you, Mike. Do omnibus bills make lobbying easier than ever?
In a sense, they do, because you don't have to wait for your special bill to come up. You don't have to move a special bill. All you have to do is glom on to a bill that's already on the tracks.
All right. Sean, to you. Should every bill be split into separate votes, like Brian was saying?
I'm a fan of one subject, one bill sort of thing. And I think part of that is you look at these multi-thousand-page omnibus bills and all the different items in there. Imagine if for the appropriation to be done for each one of those items that had to come up on a separate bill, and they had to debate it and discuss it. And while on the surface that might sound horribly inefficient, I think they should be inefficient at taking and spending our money inappropriately.
Great
Dan,
point.
that's a good answer.
Yeah, really good.
Good answers for so far.
I'll take
All
some
right.
points for that.
Yeah, he did piggyback off your answer, so that was good.
Yeah.
Brian, back to you. Shutdowns and threats. Are shutdowns a political scare tactic?
Yes. One word answer.
Yeah, Brian's absolutely right. They're not as scary as they used to be, because half the population of the United States no longer gives a damn whether you shut down the government.
Right.
But it used to be, 50 years ago, you'll have to trust me on this or ask your parents. People really did quake in their boots over this kind of silliness.
I like to point out on Labor Day, I always like to tweet out and say, take a look around. The federal government's closed today, and you won't notice a damn bit of difference.
Right.
Yeah, I was going to say they don't. It may be a scare tactic, but they don't scare me.
Yeah.
Exactly.
All right. Mike, to you. Do shutdown threats make omnibus bills inevitable?
Oh, now that's a compound question, isn't it? No, I don't think they make them inevitable. I think that politicians demonstrate that they're not very good at their job is a marvelous excuse for making things easier. So in that sense, I have said stupid things to my bosses in the past too. I'm not very good at this, so you're going to have to increase my pay and ratchet down my responsibilities. But is that something you would consider inevitable? Only if you accept the idea that our representatives are stupid.
That's fair. All right, Sean, to you. Should shutdowns trigger automatic cuts to Congress's budget?
Oh, geez. Yeah, I'm not sure how to answer that one. My gut response is that the budget just should be cut to begin with. It shouldn't matter when they pass these things, because the budget should already be so low. But no, I think it'd be interesting to see something like that, where when they go into the shutdown, there's an automatic reduction in the spending until they get their act together.
I like that idea, Sean. As a matter of fact, when the government shuts down, the government should not be allowed to make that up, right? So if you're closed for a week, that means all government employees don't get paid for a week. In other words, make it really painful. I mean, that would be a terrible thing, obviously, for federal employees who deserve better. But at least it would put pressure on the representatives to know that they're causing people pain.
Well, or maybe at least make sure Congress doesn't get paid.
At the very least.
Yes.
Well, and that's what they always do is they always say the shutdown's going to hurt the veterans. And so they play that card every time the shutdown happens, that, these brave veterans are going to be the ones that get hurt by it. And that's why we need to speed up this process they dragged their feet on for 3 months.
Well, now when they talk about it, I just, what I hear them say is the money won't be flowing to our NGOs. So.
Yeah, don't threaten me with a good time.
Yeah. USAID is going to be very hurt by this. Yeah. All right. Brian, back to you. Budget reforms. Should biennial budgets replace annual ones?
I feel like I've been had. I know there's going to be a cultural question at some point. Should annual budgets replace biannual, or the other way around? Which one was it?
It was biennial replace annual.
Well, I'm going to follow my guy Trump here and say that wasn't he trying to do away with quarterly reporting? So the fewer, the better.
Okay. All right. Mike, to you.
Yeah.
Should zero-based budgeting replace CRs?
You know, it's funny. Jimmy Carter, again, you'll have to ask your parents. Jimmy Carter tried to institute zero-based budgeting, and he drove the White House staff crazy, which has its own value. You know, I recognize that. In other words, he forced everyone to justify every dollar from the ground up instead of starting out with how much the government spends and, you know, the programmatic baseline and then making adjustments to that. I'm a big believer in zero-based budgeting. I think it's a more sophisticated, albeit, you know, more tedious and more complicated way of going after it than Doge. You know, that was sort of Doge's idea, was that it would force all the programs to justify themselves. Zero-based budgeting means you would have to justify all of your spending, every budget, instead of just making changes on the margins. So I vote yes.
All right. Sean, back to you. Do line item vetoes solve omnibus corruption?
So before I answer that, I'd like to give a modicum of credit to my city of Carmel, Indiana. It's a north suburb of Indianapolis. They actually went to zero-based budgeting when the new mayor was put into office a couple of years ago. So maybe there's hope. There's hope somewhere.
Sean, did it work out? It must have been tedious. Did it work out okay?
We'll see. I think it prompted a look at everything, but I don't think it necessarily resulted in lower spending.
I get you.
Now what was the question again?
Sorry.
Do line item vetoes solve omnibus corruption?
I think it would depend on the individuals involved in the various branches. Just doing that alone doesn't solve that problem. And of course, I think we tried to do the line item veto at the federal level a while back, and the Supreme Court came in and said, no, that's altering legislation, and that's Congress's job. So the president can't do that. Do I think it could be helpful? Yes, but again, it depends on who's doing who's drawing the lines through the items.
I'd also like to point out, they always say, as Carmel, Indiana goes, so goes the rest of the country. So.
Hey, I need to give a shout out to Casey, by the way, because we had a tornado rip through my city earlier this year, and somehow Casey knew it was close to where I lived, and sure enough, it was 2 blocks away from my house, but he knew it had gone through my city, and he reached out on Twitter and was like, "Hey, man, saw a tornado went through your town. Are you doing okay?" and all that kind of stuff. So very much appreciate that.
So you're saying he's stalking you then?
Sometimes being stalked is not such a bad thing.
Well, he's at least quit peeking through the windows when I get out of the shower. So
he's avoiding a slip and fall.
Yeah.
All right. Back to you, Brian. Oh no, enter scores. All right. So if you haven't put your scores in the chat, now is the time to do so. Let's jump in the chat. And Travis is here. Didn't say hello to me yet again. Kilburn's here. Thanks for the repost. 100 to Mike for his new job as the quote police.
Hey to Travis.
100 to Brian for criticizing Freeze lightning round. I've watched this a lot and I've never been electrocuted. At least you got points out of it. Minus 100 to Brian for asking for quick clarification on the question.
Oh, that's cold.
100 to Mike for answering Brian's question anyways. 100 to Mike for complaining, very libertarian. 100 to Mike for pointing out the futility of spending other people's money for popularity. 100 to Mike for behaving like a true member of the GOP, tariffing a quote by Tom Woods and giving it to your buddy Dave Smith.
Oh, that hurts. Did I get that wrong? I really thought Dave is the one who said that. I apologize. I still do, by the way, but I'll take your word for it.
Minus 100 to Mike for thinking all the questions are really a trick. 100 to Mike on national debt. We are bankrupt. 100 to Sean for zero debt. 100 to Sean, debt-free citizens. 0 to Sean for 0, but secretly 100. All right, so you did get the 100 out of it. 100 to Sean for 0 debt. 100 to Sean for bringing down taxes. I pay 0 to 0 #tax evasion. 100 to Brian for having the gut instinct that is smarter than a politician. Even his tummy is brighter than their minds. 100 to Brian and Sean for answering their questions.
Oh, that hurt.
100 to Mike because continuing chaos doesn't solve anything. 100 to Mike for actually understanding Robert's Rules of Order. 100 to Mike. We have a new Larry. Hey, Mike.
Hey, Chris.
100 to Mike for a special answer. 100 to Mike as they glom on. 100 to Sean for separate appropriation bills, just like Massey advocates for.
Yep.
100 to Sean, one subject bills. 100 to Sean for what Casey said. Minus 100 to Brian for trying to steal Sean's points, NAP violation. 100 to Brian, governments use shutdowns as scare tactics. Minus 100 again to Mike for cheerleading Brian.
Oh, that hurts. The heck with you, Brian.
Dragging you down, bro.
100 to Mike for having a cool looking closet to stream from.
Oh, that hurts. That's personal.
100 to Mike for pointing out an omnibus question. 100 to Mike for omnibus. 100 to Mike for our representatives are stupid. Minus 100 to Mike for being so agreeable.
Oh, God.
100 to Sean for the Iwo Jima statue. Maybe if they didn't take 42 days off right before the budget deadline, we wouldn't need a CR, I think.
Yeah.
Minus 100 to Mike, who will tell us what definitely doesn't cause autism even after a few months if the government shuts down. Think of the children. Hey, OB.
Based on what I saw on social media today, in about 4 or 5 years, we may know whether there really is a link between acetaminophen and autism based on which political group has more of or less of it. So
that is a fascinating observation. You may well be right about that, Sean.
It's going to hurt the meme game, though, so I'm against it. 100 to Thug Life for picking Mike. Welcome, Patty. 100 for stupid correct. I don't know where that was going. 100 to Sean for the shout out to Casey. He's good people.
Yeah,
a little bit of a stalker, though, apparently. I got my hello. Thanks, Travis. Hello to Free because I don't want to get called out. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's see how it's going here so far. Let's check the scores. Sean is in the lead with 1,100.
Oh.
Mike is right behind with 800, and Brian with 500. Brian, you're in third. What do you think so far?
It's all right, man. I'm gonna sleep just fine, but I am competitive, so hoping to do better.
Our fiat points don't bother you?
They don't, but I was thinking, what a brilliant game this is. I mean, Mike, isn't that a really cool way to score? I mean, that's cool.
It is. It's been never this hard to score since high school.
Mike, you're in second. What do you think?
I've been in second place before, Free, so I'm used to it.
I think you meant fourth, but that's too soon. Too soon. Sorry.
Well, I'm just I was referencing 5 months earlier than that, but it's okay.
Oh, okay. And Sean, you're in the early lead. What do you think so far?
I don't know. Leads can be fleeting, and I'm a little bit surprised because Mike and Brian are tough and doing well. Although I think Mike might have just given us a little bit too much insight into his success with the ladies in high school than I really wanted to know. So.
Or lack thereof. That's right.
There's a lot of weird confessions going on today. Yeah, I'm with you on that. So. All right, let's get back to it. Brian, to you. Category is tariffs as taxes in disguise. Are tariffs just more hidden taxes?
Well, my idol Trey Parker thinks so, right? That was the subject of one of the recent South Park episodes. And as I become more familiar with libertarian philosophy and been the biggest South Park fan forever, in this political environment, they are leaning into it, and so they're really hitting you over the head with it. I don't know. I understand that point, and it's very possible that that's the case, that the companies really aren't the ones paying them. It's just the people. Okay, I got it. But is there not a beneficial process happening along the way for the federal government? I'm not willing to say that I know for a fact it's a horrible idea, these tariffs. I think it's creative and bold, and all I know is, and I'm not even trying to be funny here, but I related too well to Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. Trump, people who operate in business, people who are vigorous executives, these guys, Mike and Sean probably shaking it up. I like that. So I'm trying to keep an open mind to it. I'm not sure yet.
All right.
Free, even if there were some value in tariffs, and there's not, but even if there were, there's still taxes. What's the disguise? There's a tax on stuff as it comes to the United States. This is not disguised. There's a government official who says, "Give me $20." That's not a disguise.
Is this tariff? Is this time for a tariff debate?
Well, we've got more tariff questions, so I think we answered all of them. So this is going to be a little boring, but let's see where it goes. But Mike, to you, do foreign companies actually pay for tariffs?
Sometimes, depending on the market structure, they end up taking a little bit of a hit. So in effect, they bear some of the burden of the tax. Data show that, in most cases, it's different with every product and every market, but in most cases, most of the burden of the tax falls onto consumers in the country that is importing the item. But there are counter examples out the wazoo, but none of that changes the fact that it is a tax and that it's a bad idea.
All right. Sean, to you. Should America rely on tariffs to fund the government?
So I have two answers to this. One is nothing should be funding the government, shouldn't need to be funded. But that's maybe a little more anarchistic than I really am. For a large part of our history, tariffs did fund our government. And while tariffs are completely a tax, my issue with the current ones is I don't mind additional consumption taxes to the extent that they offset income or other taxes, especially income taxes. And we haven't seen that yet. And I think that needs to be a critical component because that tax does get integrated one way or another into the cost of goods and services, which the Fed would say is inflationary. But as I define inflation, they're not. They're a tax, which when incorporated into the prices of things, you should reduce aggregate demand. It isn't printing more money, which is what generally is creating the inflation. But to the extent that we have to have taxation, moving to a more voluntary-based system, which would be a consumption-based thing, I think is an advantage over income taxes. And Alexander Hamilton even thought so in, I believe it was Federalist 21. So, but I'm not sure. I might have that wrong.
Sean, you nailed the aggregate demand effect piece of that question. That absolutely, I want to go on the record as saying I have heard a grand total of no one bring up this very salient point in the last year. No one in the media has brought up during 2025 the fact that aggregate demand is diminished and therefore overall it is not inflationary. Having said that, it is a tax that is not on total consumption, it's only on imports. And for this reason, it affects markets in ways that are too messed up and too large relative to the sizes of the markets. That's why an income tax is better. If it were a tax on all consumption and the rates were really low and it was across a huge base of all consumption, that would be better. But because it's just on specific products and just on imports, it really screws up the markets.
Yeah, although I think part of that is that because I'm a free trade person, right? In an ideal world, we would have zero tariffs, but that only works if everybody or your trading partner also has a zero tariff. So to the extent that that tariffs are placed on our goods, I'm a little bit more okay with a reciprocal kind of effect where it's like, okay, we're going to try and, we're going to level that playing field one way or another.
For negotiation purposes, but if it's not a negotiation, even if people put taxes on themselves for the things that they import from us, we are still better off having markets that are more efficient if we don't tax our own imports.
That's true. Although another way to look at like another nation putting tariffs on our goods would be an initiation of force against our products. So,
right.
Which might make us the bad guy right now, because that's an awful lot of tariffs going on. So.
It absolutely makes us the bad guy. You're absolutely right about that.
All right, Brian, back to you. Categories inflation. Do Americans feel inflation more than the official numbers show?
I don't know. On the one hand, I want to say yes, but on the other hand, I want to say people are so resigned to not owning a home or not having these luxuries that their parents are so used to that I think we might have trained ourselves to have low expectations. And look, I'm doing all right. I mean, I'm fortunate. I have a steady job. I don't notice it particularly badly, but maybe I'm just whacked out.
All right. Mike, to you. Do politicians secretly love inflation? Yes,
absolutely they do. So does the Fed, by the way, although one might argue there's no secret there. It's not, they don't secretly love inflation. They actually just out in the open love inflation. Politicians do too. And really for the same reason that the Fed does. If people see their incomes going up, it makes them feel better about the world, and it loosens up a lot of transactions, and people don't incorporate this into many of their decisions, especially on the supply side. The whole reason the Fed likes inflation is because, in effect, it tricks companies into producing more than they otherwise would. And, they see the prices going up on the goods that they produce, and they think they're doing a good job and the demand is on the rise for their goods, and they don't realize that it's merely inflation and that the costs of their inputs are going to be going up in 20 minutes, and they in effect get tricked into producing more. This is the reason why inflation works at getting you out. It works temporarily at getting you out of a recession if you only include the immediate effects and you're not worried about the inflationary effects down the road.
Great answer. Sean, to you. And I apologize for the thunder. It appears like we're getting hit really hard right now. So hopefully my electricity stays on and all is good. But all right. Sean, to you. Should inflation automatically trigger spending cuts?
Wow. Spending cuts should be triggered automatically regardless of anything else. I'm going to say no on this just because it's a little bit complicated, because who's measuring the inflation and how are they measuring it, and to kind of and what's generating, right? In the short term, while inflation generally is a increase in the money supply in excess of the growth of the economy, you can have shorter term things like a supply shock or something like that they might measure in the inflation statistics, because they're not truly just measuring expansion of the money supply and deflation of the currency, which I think everyone needs to keep in mind when you talk about the Fed or politicians loving inflation, per the previous question. This is long-term default by proxy on our debt. And so to that extent, they really like it, because they can spend money, and 10 years from now, whatever they spent, that debt's half what it was in current dollars.
Great point. Nice.
Interesting.
Interesting take on that for sure. Brian, back to you. New category: corporate subsidies and kickbacks. Are subsidies corporate welfare by another name?
Yeah, I'm going to go just hard declarative answers like Sean. There's got to be a couple points in that. Yeah, I mean, what else can you call it?
Or South Park South Park references seem to be doing good by you. So
Right.
go
right.
either way on that. Yeah. All right, Mike, to you. Do subsidies distort the economy more than tariffs?
They do the same amount of distortion. It all depends on the individual market. If a 5% subsidy can be every bit and no more as distortionary as a 5% tariff in the same market. It works a little bit differently, but it has exactly the same effect.
Excellent. Sean, to you. Should subsidies be banned outright?
Yes. That was easy.
All right. Just a
Stop
solid
copying
yes.
my
Just
style.
like tariffs.
Something people don't think about when they take their mortgage deduction on their taxes. Technically, that's a form of subsidy for the housing industry. And so even people who will badmouth those subsidies and say nobody should get a subsidy, they'll take that every time. But I think that may be one of the largest distortions in the economy that exists.
That's
Of
a really-
course it is. It's a fantastic example. It's one of the reasons why we have such a high consumption. We should argue overconsumption of housing in this country.
Interesting.
Excellent. Brian, back to you. Categories government efficiency. Would privatization always deliver more efficiency than government programs?
Yes, I think I'm actually 100% clear on that. The question is, philosophically, I think you have to decide, is efficiency the most important thing to you? The people that I grew up around, the left background that I come from, certainly efficiency is not what you write songs about and write plays about. So I think that's the big question, but certainly it would be more efficient to be private.
No great love songs about efficiency, huh?
Oh, I would add to that if I could, just
Sure.
only if there's competition. To use an example, in Indianapolis, many years ago, I don't know, probably 15 years ago, maybe, they gave a monopoly contract for parking meters that's 50 years, renews automatically every 10, with, I forget what it was, a $40 or $50 million buyout if the city wanted to get out of it. Whereas some of us had suggested that they should look at dividing that up into different clusters and having competition that gets contracted out to based on various factors every so many years. So the key word in that question that Brian just answered is always. It may not, because the government can always privatize something out and give someone a monopoly on it, and then you don't get market factors creating efficiencies.
You're exactly right. Monopoly being one of the rare examples of a departure in terms of efficiency from maximizing, how the market should work when you privatize something.
Yeah, Chicago did the same thing where they gave all their parking meters away, and they also get fined for if they close a street down or if a parking meter is not working. And so it's an absolutely terrible deal. And the company that took it over made more than the value of the contract, I think, in the first 2 years. And there's 30 more years on it or something like that. So yeah, great points on that. All right, Mike, to you. Has any government agency ever been efficient?
Yes.
Do
You
tell.
want to hear it? Oh, okay.
tell.
I
Do
just
tell.
thought maybe, that's where we were going to end it.
Edge of my seat. Edge of
Joe
my
over.
seat.
Yeah. Well, it depends on what you mean by agency, and it depends on what you mean by efficient. These terms are all relevant. But there have been those who have argued that the NSA has been ruthlessly efficient at encroaching on our rights without ever getting congressional approval for some of the bullshit in which they're engaged. That's just an example. And I think that the security apparatus of the federal government has been fairly efficient from that standpoint for a long, long time.
Ooh, all right. That's an interesting take on it. So basically the whole government then fits that.
Well, there are examples where government agencies that actually mean well or mean what we would define as ill have not been so good at it. we have looked at the Defense Department of the United States from time to time and said that what it has been able to accomplish has been really remarkable. But I don't think that that means that too many of us would argue it's done so in an efficient fashion.
All right. Sean, to you. Should efficiency be the primary measure of government success?
So Appellation has me questioning my artistic skills because that's supposed to be Moon Knight, not Spawn. So I'll try to do better next time. No, efficiency should not be the measure of government success. The ultimate measure of government success should be how free its people are.
Travis doesn't have a working light in his house, so he might be sitting in the dark. So I think the painting's lovely. So,
Sean, good for you for giving that answer, even though we might argue that it winds up in the same place. I think it's a more fundamental answer. I always like to use as a thought experiment, what if socialism worked, right? What if we were all wrong about capitalism? What if the government were able to make better decisions for us than when we made decisions for ourselves? This is obviously merely a thought experiment. If that were the case, would the government have the right, should we give the government the authority to make decisions for us if it could make the world more efficient? And the answer has to be no, that we have not only the right, but I would argue the responsibility, the obligation to make decisions for ourselves, even in cases in which we don't do so in the most efficient way possible.
I was going to actually ask you basically that question. So that was really helpful to me, Mike. Thanks.
Mike, I told you during the campaign that I thought we could solve this misnomer about socialism with kids by just changing every video game to everybody gets the same amount of points. And then they would, hate playing the video games and realize socialism sucks. So I think we could solve that with just that. But
yeah, well said. Well said.
It's really smart.
Sean, to you. Or no, was that Sean? That was Sean.
No, I already did that. It's up to Brian.
Yeah. All right. Back to Brian. Brian, categories military spending and endless wars. Is the Pentagon budget out of control?
I think all these questions on economics are out of control. I don't know. Is it out of control? I like feeling safe. I like the Reagan vibe. I like the Trump vibe where we're going to spend on our military no matter the cost. We're going to spare no expense on safeguarding the home. I like all of that. Is it, people on the left will argue, well, shouldn't we spend some of that on home? If we're going to spend all that money, shouldn't we be getting something for it? And the libertarians, of course, would say we shouldn't be spending it at all. So what was the question? On to Mike.
Is it out of control? The answer, of course, is that it is out of control. It's out of the people's control, which is what matters. And while, we all do love us some romanticization of the Reagan administration, I think it's real important for us to remember that fundamentally we know this. There really is no such thing as peace through strength. We have seen time and again, strength does not lead to peace. We know this by looking at situations over time and across countries, but rather the opposite. The converse is true, which is to say strength does come from peace.
And I would like to point out to Brian that if you really try hard enough, all questions are economic questions.
And it's okay to just give an opinion.
I'm a robot.
I think there's value in, the education side of it, the academic side, but also just the feel of it. And, how are people reacting to it? $1 trillion is very hard to even just think about. Does it seem big? Does it seem small? It's a ton of money.
It's a good question.
Thank you. Mike, to you. Does military spending weaken the economy?
Absolutely. Brutally and ruthlessly, it weakens the economy because it is not spent on anything productive. It is spent on defense. One might argue that you do need defense. That's, something that can be debated, how much and what type, yada, yada, yada. That, I'm not saying it's important or unimportant, but it is not what you would call economically productive. So with the rare exception of, oops, you didn't spend enough and you got your country overrun and now you've lost a war and that trashed your economy. With that exception, absolutely defense spending is a loser.
Don't you think, though, that a lot of our GDP is based on defense and regime change wars and all of that?
Yes, of course it is. And all of that is unproductive. It's a terrible, terrible thing. If
Isn't
you
it kind of
think about it
propping up
like
the
this.
economy?
If you spend 4% of your GDP on defense, that means that 4% of your GDP is going down the toilet instead of making your lives better, or instead of going into investment, which would make your future lives better. It is merely going down the toilet, like I say, with the rare exception of you do need some defense to make sure you don't accidentally lose a war.
Yeah, I mean, you think about, to the extent defense spending protects your property rights or protects your liberty, that's one thing. But what's a better investment? Going out and building 100 tanks and spending that money one time and they go sit parked somewhere, or spending that same amount of money building factories and things that produce on an ongoing basis.
All right. Sean, to you, last question of the round. Do endless wars exist just to justify military spending?
Absolutely, they do. And I think this is ultimately what Eisenhower's warning was about, right? That once you've got a standing army and you've got the military industrial complex, and now we have the intelligence industrial complex, these are things that are continually going to require to be fed or to prove why they need to exist. And there's a lot of money to be made in that industry. And so that does create unfortunately an incentive to continue these things rather than resolve them.
All right. Enter your scores in the chat if you have not done so far. Let me jump into the chat. There's a lot going on here. 100 to Brian for low expectations. Was that the show or the government? I'm not exactly sure where that was going. Minus 100 to Mike for having to score for Brian. 100 to Brian for the South Park reference. 100 to Brian for Trey Parker, but then minus 100 for Trump. 100 to Brian for the South Park reference and somehow resisting the urge to speak like South Park Canadian during his answer. Minus 25
together.
Minus 25 to Brian for using Who Killed Timmy as his guiding light.
Kenny.
Yeah, it's Kenny. Yeah. 100 to Mike for not spending a lot of money just to drop out and endorse a pumpkin. I can't give any points for these questions. They're all the same litmus test on tariffs, and the libertarian position is no. Yeah, but they exist today, and we got to do something about them today. So
I like Sarah's answer, though. Yeah,
it's true. 100% true, right? 100 to Sean for defunding the government. You never have to apologize for being right. There's no government like no government. Team Charlie Brown, hair has your back.
That is awesome. I need the shirt.
Charlie Brown hair has your back, or Charlie Brown
get the shirt now.
Hair has your back.
I didn't even realize what that was until I finished reading, and then I'm like, oh, that's pretty good. All right.
Good.
Minus 100 to Sean for saying something nice about Alexander Hamilton, central banking and enemy of Appalachia.
I know it hurt my soul to do it.
100 to Sean because I'm not a monster. 100 to Brian for being whacked out. I don't know what that was. 100 to Mike for dunking on the Fed. We need Tom Brady to chair the Fed. He can't help but deflate stuff no matter what rules get in the way.
Nice
Oh,
combination reference there.
Someone living in Colts country, that was epic.
Yeah, nice deflate gate reference there. 100 to Sean for the holistic view. 100 to Brian for examining libertarianism while finding your political identity. Never confuse it for GOP or DNC adjacent. 100 to Brian for corporate welfare. 100 to Brian for sticking it to the welfare in Washington. 100 to Brian for taking the easy route. 100 to Sean, that was easy. Minus 100 to Sean for copying Brian's short answer strategy. 100 to Mike for answering every question. 100 to Sean for the spawn poster. Oh, that's where that was. 100 to Brian for pretending he was going the short answer route. Minus 100 to Mike for dead naming the Department of War.
Oh,
100 to Brian for bringing up parking meters, close enough roads. Now I can take a drink. Minus 100 to Sean for mispronouncing Appalachian. That one took me some practice. I'm not going to lie. Sorry, Sean, not familiar with Moon Knight. Socialism can only work when it's voluntary. 100%. 100 to Mike for denouncing socialism. 100 to Free for shining light on my darkness. No problem, Travis. 100 to Brian for mocking the host. Wait, what?
I don't.
All right. Minus 100 to Brian for trading liberty for safety.
we have a text thread going at the same time, and Brian's trashing you like crazy.
Yeah.
That's fair. Minus 100 to Brian for throwing money at a problem. 100 to Mike for schooling Brian on the Pentagon's budget.
Oh, God.
Minus 100 to Mike. Peace through strength does work. The problem is overplaying your hand, which we do through empire building. Minus 100 to Mike. There is peace through strength. I was taught that long ago. 100 to Mike. Military spending weakens the economy. 100 to everyone wearing an off-white shirt. What do we got? I think is that one? I don't know what.
2.
Yeah, that's a Terry problem right there. Points to Mike's defense spending, endless wars, regime changes, all useless. 100 to Mike, the waste is the issue. 100 to Sean, endless wars justify military spending. 100 to Sean, economic disputes aside, war is bad. Okay.
Nice.
Minus 100 to Brian for not doing my big question show. I'm pretty petty.
Why would you want someone who's just going to say, well, this is what the libertarians say, and it sounds reasonable, but I like Trump, so.
100 to Brian for having the least feelings, very libertarian. All right, let's see where the scores have landed at. Oh, it's getting tight here. Mike and Sean tied for the lead with 1,900, and Brian not far behind. So it's going pretty good. What do you think, Brian?
I think if you just stay humble, good things happen.
There you go. Mike, now you've moved up to a tie for first place. What do you think?
This is where I typically get nervous and I have to go to the bathroom.
There we go. And Sean, what do you think? You got tighter for you?
Well, I mean, it's both those guys are sharp, good dudes. I'm doing well just to keep up, honestly. So.
Oh, but come on, he's choosing the humble route too.
All right. Well, I'm
Hey,
trying
fake
a new
humility
one
is
here.
still humility. So.
I'm trying a new one with Republicans on. So let's see how this goes.
Where?
This is a new one. This is the Trumpometer.
Okay.
And I want you to answer on a scale of 1 to huge how you think the Trump administration is going so far. I'm going to go with you, Brian, first.
Oh, how it's going so far. Wow. That's kind of heavy, right? I mean, there's a lot of weighty issues unfolding as we speak. I think he's off to a strong start. I'm going to give him an 8.
Okay. Mike, to you.
They think they're huge, but I think that a lot of the things that they do that Americans agree with, they're going to end up backsliding on because they have made mistakes in the execution, and how you do it. We all wanted the, control over the border, but they went and overplayed their hand with violating due process, just as an example. We wanted greater investment in the United States, and they went and overplayed their hand and imposed tariffs, and the list goes on and on and on. So, they think they're huge, and their hearts are in the right place in several areas, but execution-wise, they're, an overall 3.
All right. Sean, to you.
Wow. Well, considering that I would give most administrations at this point somewhere between 0 and 3, I'm actually gonna give them about a 5 on this, and the main reasons for that are we still haven't seen perp walks or any kind of prosecutions for all of this crap that we went through in the previous years leading up to this administration. We haven't seen real cuts to the budget. And as we talked about a little bit earlier, the tariffs are not being used to offset income taxes. And so those would be 3 things where I'm like, yeah, I just can't be completely on board yet. So,
All right. Last game of the night here. Pick one. Okay. To you, Brian, who benefits from CRs? Politicians, agencies, lobbyists, party leaders, or nobody?
Lobbyists.
Any reason?
I'm sorry, I didn't know I needed to expound on that. What was the question again? Who benefits from what?
CRs.
CRs.
Okay, short-term resolutions where things are done hastily. Does that change my answer? No. Lobbyists? No. That's it.
Okay. Fair enough. Mike, to you. Biggest inflation driver? Fed policy,
Yes.
deficit spending,
No.
tariffs,
No.
energy costs,
No.
corporate subsidies.
No. Fed policy. Final answer.
Do you want me to put you on the screen or no?
Hey. Oh, am I supposed to pick one now?
I don't know what we're doing
Okay.
at this point.
No, it's Fed policy. It is the big driver. The Fed should be targeting 0 inflation. It targets 2 and it misses that. The Fed is the reason why we have so much inflation.
All right. Sean, you. Why politicians avoid spending cuts? Fear of voter backlash, lobbyist pressure, short-term politics, re-election focus, or addiction to growth?
well, I feel like I get harder questions than the other guys.
Want me to put it back on the
When
screen?
it says addiction to growth, what growth where? Just in the government generally, or in spending, or what?
Yeah, all of it.
Yeah, put the option. Can you put the options back up? I'm going to go with. Well, that's even a tough one. I don't like any of these answers really.
Give a different one if you like.
Yeah, I just think it's complicated, but that's not the game. I'm going to go with short-term politics.
Okay.
Because I think it encompasses some of the other items there, some of the other bullet items there.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, if you want to expand, you can. These were just the idea here is that if you like these answers, pick one of them. If I missed one that's better, go ahead and give that. And if you want to tell us why, you can.
It's one of those things where I think part of the challenge here is, we elect people to Congress who may or may not be experts on any particular thing. And they get in there and all of a sudden, all of the lobbyists, all of the agency heads, everyone in government, all of the international influence, all of the industry, it's all in their ears about, oh, well, you can't cut this because if you do this, we'll have people dying in the streets. And if you cut this other thing, a million Chinese people are going to come across and invade our country. Or if you cut, and so it becomes conducive to maintaining the status quo and continuing to grow it to try and appease everybody. And I think it's the appeasement thing, right? Thomas Massey has talked about this because he jokingly says he lacks this gene, but that most of the other people in Congress have some gene which drives them to require to be liked by everybody. And I think that's ultimately what drives a lot of this is trying to appease everybody.
And then, like Mike said, we realize we don't like them anyways. So
Yeah. Although usually it's like people are with their kids, right? Oh well, my congressperson's okay, the others are all bad, which is why you have a 90+% reelection rate, like a 9% approval rate, because it's the same thing as like, oh well, my kid's not doing drugs and having sex, and it's like, are you sure about that? Yeah. So
yeah, right. All right, Brian, back to you. Best alternatives to continuing resolutions: balanced budgets, automatic cuts, spending caps, zero-based budgeting, or state control.
I'm between balanced budgets and zero-based budgeting. And for a refined answer, I'll defer to Mike ter Maat.
I think you got two good ones there. The third one that I like is automatic cuts. If you can't get your act together, I think Sean flagged this as an idea an hour ago. If you can't get your act together, you lose the resources you're allowed to spend.
I like the idea of just alley-ooping Mike on all of these.
You're
put
with
it somewhere by
LeBron
the
James.
rim
What
and-
else are you gonna do?
Yeah, put it somewhere by the rim. He'll jam at home.
Nah, we have had examples of automatic cuts in the past. Extremely rare, extremely small. And so people don't take notice of it. But it is a mechanism that could actually work if Congress were to give it teeth. And instead of facing, these debt crises that just linger on with negotiations, if it just, on a date certain, it meant that you had to cut spending to fit underneath the debt cap, hell or high water. That's the way it is. I think that the American public would be shocked to learn how much the budget had to be reduced.
We just had it, and then Mike Johnson took it out. The
Yeah,
automatic cuts.
well, this is an issue, which is one of the reasons you had an earlier question. Who does the CR benefit? There are a lot of folks who believe it benefits leadership because leadership uses it as a stick to beat up their members. You can't get your caucus to behave for 60 days leading up to it, and then all of a sudden there's this CR, and now your leadership has all this leverage to beat you up and force you to vote with the rest of the caucus.
Absolutely. All right, Mike, to you. Biggest criticism of the Federal Reserve: secrecy, inflation creation, market manipulation, debt financing, or elite favoritism.
It's inflation creation. All the rest are true, but they're all really symptoms of the apparatus of creating inflation. It's why I say, we need to end the Fed, but the first step toward doing that is taking away its discretionary monetary policy and replacing it with a rules-based system. If you just had a rule that said you weren't allowed to create more money than would result in zero inflation, you would take away all of the power of the Fed, and then all of its other stupid protocols would be meaningless.
All right. Sean, to you. Reasons politicians love tariffs: hidden taxation, revenue without cuts, patriotic messaging, lobbyist pressure, or quick cash grab.
I would say politicians generally, hidden taxation. If you think about all the different layers of taxes that we pay and all of the different types of taxes, and you add all of that up and come up with a number, it's been a long time since I did that math, but I would guess that number starts to approach between 50 and 60% of the total economy, probably maybe close to 40%. If you were to just send somebody a bill at the end of each year with what their total tax liability was, with everything just added in, state, local, federal, all of it, one, who could write the check? And number two, how mad would everybody be and how quickly would you get reform and changes? So to the extent they can carve all of this stuff up into little teeny tiny bits and spread it out across numerous sources, and it makes it very complicated and very difficult for people to track and really know what they ultimately pay.
Great points. All right, Brian, to you. Most broken sector of the economy: housing, healthcare, manufacturing, education, or energy?
That's a tough one, right? I mean, even I know that they're all messed up, particularly housing, education, possibly healthcare as well, but not as up to snuff on that one. But I mean, this idea that you have private corporation. Now, see, this is an interesting one for libertarians. Should a private corporation, a mega corporation, be able to just buy up housing and, prevent, young families from getting those homes? I presume the answer is yes. So what's the most broken sector? But our education system is trash, right? We spend so much money and we have some of the worst results. So I think those two are pretty severely broken.
Yeah, I think the problem with the housing that you're mentioning is that, we lend them money at cheaper that than an individual can borrow money at to then go buy all the houses and kick people out of them and make rent unaffordable and turn them into Airbnbs or whatever they're doing. So,
yeah. And by the way, I'm not crapping on BlackRock or whatever they are, I don't know. Maybe that's good. Mike, is it a good thing that, I'm not hating.
Well, we do have to let capital markets do their jobs. I think the biggest problem, I thought your answer was spot on with regard to education. And the reason that it's such a mess is because it is the one area of the economy where the government provides the service directly. The government has completely screwed up healthcare, but it has done so through all of the subsidies, subsidies to insurance, the requirements, the opacity, of course, differential pricing, and then the government participates directly in the financing. But in education, the government provides the service itself. It doesn't even use the private sector to deliver the service. And this is why it's so messed up. It's as messed up as the industry of policing, something I know something about, because it doesn't allow competition. In policing, at least you have a tiny bit of competition. You could, fire your police department and hire the sheriff's office if you wanted to. But in most places, you don't have any competition at all. And that's why education is so messed up.
100%. All right, Mike, to you. Interest rates should encourage savings, investment, growth, stability, or honest money.
No! Interest rates are not something you use to encourage or discourage. Interest rates are a price. You need to stay the hell away. If you're the government, if this is a public policy discussion, you need to stay the hell away from adjusting the price. All prices need to be set by the market so that the market's clear, so that demand and supply equal each other. When you step in and you change the price, you lower the price of housing, or you raise the price of bread, or you lower the price of capital in the case of interest rates, you just bastardize the thing and you get biases and you get bubbles and then you get recessions and then you get heartache and then you got wondering and you get bad questions on game shows. You got to cut it all out. Do not touch prices.
Well, if I was trying to get you to flip your desk, I came dangerously close to that. So it might not have been a bad question.
That was an excellent, excellent question.
That was your Howard Dean moment. You got so amped up.
Yeah, I was going to say, we used to do this free, and we haven't been doing it this time. Where we could, as contestants, we could give or take points away from someone. Even I want to give points to Mike for that one. So
yeah, but people turned into wimps and they started splitting points and stuff, and I got annoyed and I stopped doing it. So that's where that went.
Never annoy the host.
Yeah, I get bored easily when people are nice to each other. That's no fun for me. So yeah. Enough of the kumbaya stuff.
This isn't something that I benefit from or anyway. But if people haven't read Broken Money by Lynn Alden, it goes through the history of current currencies, all the way from people using seashells to Bitcoin. Talks about the Federal Reserve, talks about government spending. It's a fairly unbiased, but I would say from a free market, probably very libertarian perspective on a lot of these things. It's an excellent, excellent book. So I can't recommend it enough.
That's great. All right, Sean,
This
to
is
you.
a bill from my car. This is a service reminder. And so Kia wants me to go get my car serviced. I just thought I'd share that. I'm just kidding. Just teasing you.
All right.
Well, you
On
better
that
do
note-
it, because if you buy a new Kia, you're going to pay a hell of a tariff.
Mm.
All right. Sean, to you. Why is efficiency rare in government? No competition.
I'm going to go straight to that first bullet item and say no competition. There's no incentive for there to be efficiency, because there's not just no underlying profit motive where you have competition and people trying to make sure they're operating as efficiently as possible, but you combine that with the ability to, at least at the federal level, just print money to cover deficits. I mean, that environment just has no controls that would drive efficiencies or being cost conscious in any way.
Wow, I like that one. Right for it.
I mean, right? I mean,
Give me some reading.
government is a monopoly. So
Yeah, nailed it.
Now I can spend the rest of my time reading Brian's maintenance reminder, so that saved me some time. So,
well, he has a Kia. He probably has to use that a lot. So.
2013 was a great year.
all right, Brian, back to you. Why government spending keeps growing? Elections, lobbyists, promises, fear, or greed?
Well, doesn't that all really speak to the same problem? And I know one of the most radical ideas I encountered throughout my couple of years podcasting was this idea to get rid of elections completely and basically have a qualified lottery, and just to truly get the money out of politics. I wonder what you guys think about that. That's my answer.
I like the idea. I used to say, referring to any particular politician, you could throw a baseball out of, in my case, a long time ago, the 6th floor window of your office, and whoever picks it up, that would be your new congressperson, and you would be better off on average. So I think that's a type of lottery. I like that idea. The citizen rep, right?
I think you would. I think you would at least tend towards a lower prevalence of sociopathy and psychopathy, just because when you have so much concentrated power and influence and control over money, you attract people who want that control and want that power over others. And as I'm fond of saying, those who most want power over you are those you should least let have it.
I'm fine with getting rid of the elections, but I think we just get rid of the government, and then Mike saves his baseball and everybody wins.
I'll give up the baseball if I get to use words like sociopathy and psychopathy and other words that I haven't heard in a long time. That was really impressive.
Keep it to 3 syllables, please.
How do you not hear those words all the time when talking about the government?
Because people talk about, those kinds of things behind my back. I just hear people going, sociopathy.
That certainly was one of the main drivers for the guy who crafted that idea.
Well, let's see if Sean ends up getting a double word score in the chat for those. So, all right. Who was that? Was that?
I think we're to
Mike's up.
Mike.
No, that was, I think that was,
Because
took
Brian
that
threw it.
that was Brian. That was
threw it
Brian.
for
So now it's to Mike.
commentary.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Mike, to you. Best way to fight inflation: cut spending, raise rates, audit the Fed, deregulate markets, or strengthen currency?
Well, ultimately, the answer is strengthen currency, but that's sort of idiomatic. Those are two sides of the same coin. It's like saying the same thing. You strengthen the dollar by decreasing inflation. The underlying force, I think the real spirit of your question was, what's the underlying force behind the whole enchilada? And the answer is too much spending. So ultimately, you've got to cut spending. If you could control the government's ability to spend money, you would tremendously diminish, the tax silliness, the debt silliness, and the inflation silliness. All of that comes from too much spending.
All right. Sean, to you. Why shutdowns happen? Spending fights, political games, election politics, lobbyist pressure, or leadership weakness?
Oh, I like a couple of those answers a lot. I'm going to say political games, which leadership weakness can contribute to that. But I think it's political games. It's people trying to get as much as they want pilfered out of the system and throwing a tantrum if they don't get their way, and it's. I don't know, I just like political games in that list. So.
Okay. Brian, back to you. Biggest debt burden in the future? Like what's the biggest burden we have to worry about in the future? Higher taxes, lower wages, fewer jobs, less freedom, or shrinking savings?
Biggest debt burden in the future.
Free, is this something driven by the debt or a driver of the debt?
Either way, I don't know. No, please, Free, answer if you don't mind.
Yeah. What do we have to worry about the most in the future because of the debt?
Okay.
Oh.
Oh, because of the debt.
Like what concerns you? Like
Yeah,
I'm not
okay.
looking for a
Yeah,
textbook
yeah.
answer here.
Sure,
Which one bothers you the most?
Sure. Higher taxes, right? That's got to be, you got to pay it back at some point, right?
Yeah, I think that's the most immediate answer. The other answer is yes.
Yeah, a lot of these are yes.
I was going to say, ultimately, doesn't all of that lead to less freedom?
Yeah.
That's their business, though. That's what they're going for, right?
Well, I mean, because if you have less economic freedom, you have less freedom, and most of those other things directly relate to economic freedom.
Yeah.
Or at least
All right.
economic flexibility.
Mike, to you, most dangerous economic bubble: housing, the stock market, student loans, government bonds, or healthcare?
Well, I think it's got to be government bonds. A lot of people would not call that a bubble. So good for you for putting it on the bubble list. Whether you call it a bubble or not, that is the one thing, the price of which is bound to diminish over time. Not immediately, not monotonically decreasing, but unless there's profound change in federal spending policy, there will be a crash in the value of federal bonds. So call it a bubble or don't call it a bubble. It's one thing guaranteed to crash if we don't have big changes.
Excellent. Sean, to you. Who protects wasteful agencies? Unions, lobbyists, politicians, contractors, or bureaucrats?
Yes.
Who does it the most? I guess I should have added most there.
Well, ultimately the politicians do it the most because they're the ones with the ability to cut budgets, cut spending, downsize, eliminate an agency. I mean, think about a couple of agencies we didn't even have until the very late 1970s. Education and energy. If you were, you talk about trying to dismantle those and the howls that come out of the woodwork, and the facts don't matter. When you think about like education, we've continued to go down in results despite increases in spending. But when you talk about trying to get rid of that, boy, the politicians just go crazy. And, just ultimately the politicians are the ones that are the gatekeepers and protecting all that. Everything else is just an influencer to them.
All right, one more each here and we're done. Brian, to you. Best fix for dysfunctional, for Congress's dysfunction: single subject bills, balanced budgets, audits, voter approval, or transparency?
I guess I'm going to go with single subject bills in this case, just because it's a way to force people, to train people to focus, and there's no hiding. And so there's transparency in that as well. So I'll go with that answer.
Great. Mike, to you. Who profits most from borrowing? Bondholders, Wall Street, contractors, foreign nations, or politicians?
Well, politicians benefit most immediately. and probably in largest measure relative to what it is that they're doing of any value, right? Because they're the ones that are able to take political advantage of the idea of all of this spending, and then they don't have to impose the taxes. And so they politically benefit from all of that. It is worth mentioning that, yeah, the bondholders do okay, no question about it. Wall Street, on the other hand, makes enormous fees off of the issuance of government bonds. And part of the reason this is so is because the scale is so large that very few firms can handle this. So you've got 3 or 4 gigantic companies in New York who handle the government's business. And because there's so few of them, because they collude unofficially, they're on a back channel text thread, just like the 3 of us are right this minute, because they collude, those prices are kept real high, fee for service. And it's one of the reasons why they make so much money relative to the value they provide.
Excellent. All right.
Yeah,
Sean,
and to follow on with what Mike said too, if you think about how the system works, a lot of those, those big banks that sit at the front end of new debt issuance, they get benefit of newly created money before the inflationary effects have kicked in for the rest of us. So, there's a lag effect in as that money gets into the system and drives inflation. These big financial institutions, they get first use of that money before that lag effect has kicked in. And so absolutely, they benefit greatly, even beyond the fees that they charge.
Which is huge. And Sean goes in the same category as you having correctly identified the fact that tariffs marginally diminish aggregate demand, something that nobody talks about in the media. Kudos.
They needed a game show to bring it out into the public eye,
Hey, a lot of people could benefit from watching the show. Just saying.
Let me sneak this in now. I hold the 3 of you in the highest regard. And like I said, I don't know if Mike, you were not familiar with this at all. It's a great format. It's kudos free.
It is a great format. I understand Jimmy Kimmel is going to be on next week.
Yeah, I'm trying to get canceled from everything. I just got back on YouTube, so
yeah, that's what I was hoping we were going to get into. Not
Colbert and Kimmel are going to be on.
We did that last week. Actually, we did all that stuff last week. So
damn it.
Yeah.
Well, good stuff.
Now, free can't have Kimmel on because then Sinclair won't carry the program. So
yeah, exactly. It'll hurt my upward trajectory.
Right.
All right, Sean, to you. Why does Congress refuse to cut re-election focus, special interest, media coverage, short-term gain, or cowardice?
Well, this is similar to a question I got a while back. I'm gonna go with cowardice on this one.
Okay. All right. So that gets us to the end here. If you haven't entered your scores in the chat, please do so now. Tell us what you think. Tell us who you thought won. Let's jump into the chat. Wow, a lot going on in the chat here. 100 to Brian for having faith in the chat. 100 to Brian for staying humble. 100 to Mike to break the tie with Sean. That was earlier. Minus 100 to Sean for trying reverse psychology on the chat. Yeah, that never goes well. 100 to Mike overplaying their hand as the Achilles heel of the uniparty. 100 to Sean for no perp walks and no budget cuts. 100 to Mike on the 3 way too high, but nice scolding. 100 to Mike for giving the closest correct rating, which should be 0. Oh, that was the Trump one. 100 to Mike for at least recognizing Trump is under 5. 100 to Brian for realizing lobbyists are the devil. 100 to Mike, the Fed sucks. 100. Oh, there's David Moskrip. What's up, David? 100.
David then?
Yeah, 100 to Mike for better lighting. I liked it when he was in your dining room too. 100 to Mike. People underestimate the interference of the Fed because the uniparty is economically illiterate. Minus 50 to Sean for the wishy-washiness. 100 to Sean for the Massey shout out.
Oh yeah.
100 for not appeasing everybody for Sean. Minus 100 to Sean for defending Massey. Ooh, I didn't see that coming. 100 to Sean for defending Massey. All over the place. 100 to Sean, a friend to everyone is a friend to no one. Massey's authenticity is why I love him. 100 to Brian for pretending it was his choice to defer to Mike. 100 to Mike for advocating for the blessed sequester.
Yeah, yeah.
100 to Mike for bashing use it or lose it. 100 to Mike for having SOE or some principles, probably. I don't. Mark's here. What's up, Mark? 100 to Mike for the back-to-back slam dunks. There we go. 100 to Mike for Fedflation. 100 to Mike, inflation is crippling. And
he's running away.
And the Fed.
100 to Mike for getting to the heart of the issue with the Fed. Wish the RLC would listen to him more.
It will. We got to be patient.
All right. Trust the process. Is that where we're going with that?
Nah, that might be a bit much, but okay.
100 to Mike for stupid protocols. 100 to Sean. Yup. Republicans hate being viewed for raising taxes. 100 to Sean. Tariffs are hidden taxation. 100 to Sean for echoing Uncle Milty's only regret in life, tax withholding.
Yeah.
100 to Brian. Our education system's trash. 50 to Brian. Everything's more
50.
expensive when energy's more expensive.
What is that? Inflation
Yep.
prices? 50?
Well, she was splitting it. You got 50 for your education too.
Those points were produced domestically, so there was no tariff.
They're
Someone
worth
hitting me
more.
now. Trey Parker was right.
They're worth more.
We had a game decided by one at one point, so they all count. 50 to Brian on education. 100 to Mike for reminding us why Austrian economists are cool to the rest of us economic nerds. Minus 100 to Mike for wearing a wire on this publicly available podcast.
I
100
like
to Mike.
that one. You caught me.
100 to Mike for the no. 100 to Mike for the stay the hell away. 100 to Brian, Howard Dean moment. Bad questions on a game show. Yeah. 100 to Mike. Minus 100 to Brian for driving a Kia. Yeah, I thought that might hurt.
Personal. All right. I don't like that one.
100 to Brian, thanks for sharing. 100 to Sean, innovation doesn't happen nearly as quickly under a monopoly. 100 to Brian, lottery sounds like an interesting concept. 100 to Sean, poly psych for the win.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Minus 50 to Mike for being a closet Cubs fan. I'll double that as a Sox fan.
No closet. I'm out of the closet. I am a diehard Cubs fan.
100 to Free for getting rid of the government. He needs to fire himself first. I will be glad to do that. I will take down any department you put me in charge of as well. 100 to Mike for the whisper into the mic. 100 to Sean for the big vocabulary. 100 to Mike for understanding Venn diagrams in these answers. 100 to Mike for cutting spending. The man is Jason and the budget is a bunch of teenagers fooling around in the cabin. 100 to Sean, political games. 100 to Brian, single subject bills. Points to Brian, points to Brian, points to Brian, points to Mike for saying there's no business like short business.
Yeah.
The Republican caucus of Liberty Caucus of Virginia is here. 100 to Mike for his economic expertise, and another 100 to Mike because of part 2. Whew, that was a lot. Let's see where we ended up here. Oh, it was a close one. Let's see where we ended up. Let's see if I can get to the dumb drum roll fast enough here. Yeah, here we go. And Mike with the win, 40-50. Sean in second place, 38-50, only a couple 100 points behind. And Brian with a nice showing, still almost 3,000 there. Brian, you came in third. What do you think?
Look, I mean, it's the right place to come in. I was with two really literate, educated, first-rate thinkers, and I'm just glad to claw the points that I did. Really grateful to be here.
And you just rebooted the show. Please plug it.
I rebooted what show? What are you talking about?
You started doing your show.
Oh, okay, my own podcast. Yes. I
It's
host
the
a
one
podcast.
with your name. It's the one with your name on it several times.
Which one? Yes. Formerly searching for political identity. Still doing that, but now as a Trump supporter and under the banner of the Brian Eskow Show. Thank you.
Nice. It's a great show. Everybody should check it out. Sean, you were leading end to end and then just came up a little bit short. What do you think?
Well, I mean, looking at those numbers, I did at least lose the fewest points from what I read there. But no, hey, I was worried going into this one because I know how sharp Mike is, and I've been on before with Brian, and he's obviously brilliant and brings an interesting take to everything. So, like I said before, I feel good just keeping up.
And Mike, first time on the show, and you came away with the win. What do you think?
I think obviously winning is, it's not everything. I think it's one of those things you give to losers to make them feel better about themselves. I had my feelings hurt when Brian said that he was on here with two really smart guys, because I want to point out that I was here too. I was here too. Okay. Don't cut me out.
Sorry.
And I had a really good time. I was really gratified to see some of my friends from Grumbling Media out there. Everyone should check out Liberty Lens, because I do not spend the whole time talking. My good buddy, Big John, does just as much talking, and that makes it a good program. So folks should check out Liberty Lens.
Anything else you want to plug?
That's about it. You check out Liberty Lens. You check out the Republican Liberty Caucus. You cannot go wrong in life.
And those are all, I should have put the Grumblings address up, but those are all on Grumblings Media. You can follow them, find them by following Mike or Big John or Hody.
When I heard Mike say winning isn't everything in my head, I just heard winning is everything. I love to win.
Let me throw Terry back up here. What did you think tonight, Terry? Oh, she's laughing her ass off again. We might have to wait for a second.
That was Sean's fault. He caught me right as you clicked. Okay. You guys did a great job. I had a really good time. I feel like I got I tried to get a lesson in economics. Let's put it that way. That's not really my strong point, but I did learn an awful lot. You guys were a lot of fun. Brian, you were awesome. That's what I was talking about. All of us need to be looking and checking out everything and questioning everything every day, every single day. And Sean, I think you're wonderful. And Mike, I'm a little surprised at you. You actually did a good job.
There you have it.
Boy. Oh,
Hey,
boy.
just remember, there is no I in win, there is no I in Terry, and there is no I in Mike. Okay.
Love it.
One R, one
There
eye.
were plugs at the beginning. That was unfair. I don't know what that was. People liked it though. Casey said great show. Check out Casey tomorrow, 8 p.m. Amity said great show. Waz, thank you. Hody. Big John for sticking with the podcast. For Brian. Humble loss, Brian. 100 for being a good sport. Good game. Congrats. Yeah, lots of people liked it. So thanks for doing this, everybody. Thank you to the chat. You guys were great. Also remember, you can follow me and Terry on X as well. Freedom for Us for All, and Terry's Bats T76. Let me just throw these up one more time. Mike is at MikeTerMaat.com. Brian is Brian Eskow on X, and a self-named show. And Sean is Sean Shepard 1. If you want to buy a painting from not him, I think is what we learned from that. And anything in closing, guys?
Watch out for those balloons.
Yeah, exactly. No, this was great. Thank you so much for doing this. Thank you to the chat. You guys were awesome. And we are back Friday night at 8 p.m. Who's on Friday, Terry?
Friday, we have Austin Peterson, who does Wake Up America. We have Camille Peterson, S-O-N. She's an editor and an author, and also works with Austin Peterson, S-E-N. And we also have Dan Smots, who is the host on The System is Down.
Well, that'll be a fun one. Great group.
Should be. Yeah.
All right. So we'll see you Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern. Thank you, everybody. Have a good night. Peace.